Before going into the topic details, I want to bring your attention to the UPSC coaching programs offered by ClearIAS. ClearIAS offers online and offline courses to help candidates get selected for prestigious government services like IAS, IPS, or IFS. ClearIAS, Prelims cum Mains, PCM course, provides a highly effective study plan, well-organized subject-wise videos, study materials, mock exams, and guidance to cover the entire GS syllabus of UPSC CSE Prelims, Mains, and Interview systematically. As a limited period offer, there is a 40% discount on our online courses. Enroll now.
Kamchatka Peninsula. So we'll understand where this particular, what happened to this region is that one volcano actually erupted there, and that volcano's name is Shiveluch. So just even if you don't understand the name, okay, just note the name of the volcano, Shiveluch. All these are Russian names. So that particular region is the important place, that is Kamchatka. That Kamchatka Peninsula region is there in the eastern, far eastern part of Russia and onto the exterior regions of Siberia and all. So after this earthquake happened, a particular volcano, that is Shiveluch, that actually erupted. That is the current affair event that actually happened. Now we will understand the location of this particular event and why it is actually happening there. So that where is it and why is it? That are the two things we are going to understand. So it is a very powerful earthquakes and all. So you can see this thing here. This is actually the entire Russia, the largest country of the world, and you can see the Kamchatka Peninsula here. So it is actually one particular area which is extending outwards to the Pacific Ocean, and it is actually a group of islands. You can see small group of islands here, and that is actually called archipelago. Archipelago means a group of islands or a chain of islands. So after the Kamchatka Peninsula, you have got this group of islands or chain of islands, which is actually called the Kuril Islands. This is actually an important place because this Kuril Islands is actually debated between or contested between Russia and Japan. So they both actually claim access to this, the ownership to this particular thing called Kuril Islands. It is, what is Kuril Islands? Yes.
Till World War II belonged to Japan, and after that Russia took it from Japan and exterminated all the Japanese from the island and took control of it.
Exactly, it is now under the ownership of Japan, I believe, right? Isn't it like that?
Sir, I believe it is under the ownership of Russia. I'm not sure.
Kuril Islands?
Yes, sir.
It is actually in the ownership of Russia. Okay, I'll just confirm that. Okay, I'll just confirm that. If we have it, okay, I'll have it out when you say that. So you're saying that the Kuril Islands is currently under the ownership of Russia. I read yesterday only, but maybe because that maybe some parts of Kuril Islands, maybe the southern parts of Kuril Islands may be part of under the influence of Japan, and most of them will be maybe under the influence of Russia. So that may be why I read that it is actually contested. Maybe some part is contested. Major part may be under Russia's influence, and some part may be Japan's influence. I'll just what do you say? Check that, and I'll correct it in the next class. Right. So
I just checked it. It's under the administration of Russia, but it is claimed by Japan.
It is under the administration of Russia, but
claimed by Japan.
Claimed by Japan. Okay, it is claimed by Japan. I'll also check that. Okay, thanks for that information. Okay, Devansh. I'll also just check that because there is a possibility that the Kuril, some of the regions of Kuril, maybe if there is actually thousands of islands, 998 may be with Russia, but 2 will be with Japan. Maybe something like that. So thanks for that information. I thought that it is actually mainly under Japan's influence, but you are saying that it's Russia's influence. So I'll check that and I'll confirm it next week. So we'll go with Devansh's view actually. He was actually checking that. So it is mainly under Russia's influence, and we were actually going with the term of archipelago, which is actually chain or a group of islands that is actually called Kuril Islands. So now we know the location of Kamchatka Peninsula, which is on the far eastern part of Russia, and now we have to go to the other features of this particular region. So you have the sea in here. What is the sea in here? That is actually called the Sea of Okhotsk. These kind of map marking questions is actually very much possible. So when only some events happen, then only UPSC will take the map and ask you the questions. So Sea of Okhotsk is actually very near to this particular area. So that is one point. And which is the another sea here? That is the Bering Sea. That is the Bering Sea. And you have got in between you have got one particular area that is called Bering Strait. So in between you have got Bering Strait. So what do you mean by strait actually? Narrow? Land masses. So narrow water body between two land masses, it is a strait. So what are the land masses here? This is Russia here, and what is there? Alaska is there. That is part of USA. So in between Alaska and Russia, we have a narrow strip of water which connects the polar regions to the Pacific Ocean. That is actually called as the Bering Strait actually. There are important straits like that. For example, Gibraltar Strait. Gibraltar Strait is actually between, I believe, Spain in the Europe and Morocco in Africa. So just between Europe and Africa, you have got this Gibraltar Strait. So you have Mediterranean Sea and you have Atlantic Sea here in between Gibraltar Strait. So just like that, that is actually called as the Bering Sea, which is connected to the Arctic Ocean by Bering Strait. That side you have Americas, you have this Russia, you have Russia, and all this is actually part of the Pacific Ocean islands. And then we have to also identify this particular area, that is called the Sakhalin. Okay, Sakhalin is actually an island, majorly an island. Sakhalin is actually under the control of Russia. And why Sakhalin is important for UPSC aspirant is that we have got large investments there by ONGC. So ONGC is having huge investments there. It is actually a very rich place of oil. So a lot of oil is actually, petroleum products are actually pumped out of the Sakhalin group of islands, and a lot of different projects are going there. ONGC is also invested heavily in that region. And most of the oil is actually not for their own purposes, they are simply getting exported. And India also get a huge share of oil from the region. So Sakhalin is actually an important place for Russia of course, because it is a huge natural resource, and for India also because of ONGC. So that is the point. And you know the location here because after Russia we have got China here, and China, North Korea has access to mainly through China only, and then to South Korea. And finally they have got Japan here. Last week we discussed about Africa. There will be certain things coming, so we'll be discussing about Southeast Asia in one of the few classes, because there is actually going to have an East Asian summit or Southeast Asian summit, ASEAN summit, all these things will be happening. So we'll take the map of Southeast Asia, which is actually here, and we'll discuss that also. Right, so that is actually the map of Kamchatka province, and we'll also mention that why this earthquake happening, why this volcanism is actually happening in the Kamchatka island. That is one other issue. So where and why, and what is this thing is actually called? Ring of fire. Right, ring of fire, yes. So why this particular thing, that is the ring of fire, is the major reason why that region is actually extremely affected. This particular region is the Kamchatka province. So it is actually passing through the ring of fire region. So that is why they have lot of number of volcanoes, and one of the volcanoes, that is Shiveluch, that actually erupted because of the earthquake. And the scientists are actually warning that it is only an warning only, and the larger earthquake is actually going to happen, and that is what the scientists are actually claiming. So they are expecting a larger earthquake in that region very soon. So they are evacuating a lot of different people. There are only very few people living in that area, and the far is Russia and all. So all the people there, they are trying to evacuate to the safe location so that larger issue is actually avoided. So when we study geography, we will be studying about the ring of fire, the place and all. Why this is called a ring of, why it is called a ring of fire?
It is where the plates meet, so there are a lot of volcanoes.
Yes, that is actually ultimately volcanoes. So a lot of volcanoes are there. Why there are a lot of volcanoes in the region?
The plates meet there.
Which one?
So the tectonic plates meet.
Tectonic plates meet. So that is the point. Tectonic plate, that is a convergent. There is something called plate boundaries. So there are different types of plate boundaries: convergent plate boundary, divergent plate boundary, etc., like that. So we'll be studying about what these kind of different plate boundaries are. And this region of ring of fire is actually a part of plate boundary. So in between you have the Pacific Ocean plate boundary. Here you have this kind of some other different kinds of plates. Here also you have got different kinds of plates. So all these are either colliding or diverging. Some things are actually happening. Because of that, this kind of earthquakes and this kind of volcanisms are actually happening. So we'll be understanding about the plate boundaries, etc., and certain kind of plate boundaries. For example, converging boundaries. Right. converging boundaries or Himalaya is actually an example, is a result of the converging plate boundaries. When we look at the Himalayas, that entire belt, it is actually not just Himalayas, it goes through on and on till Europe. So from Europe, it is actually, there is a continuous belt of this particular convergence, and it comes through Iran, Iraq, that area, it comes through Himalayan region, it goes through the Andaman Nicobar Islands, so it goes like that. That boundary is there. If you notice that, there is less volcanism. Right? There is actually, it is a heavily earthquake prone region, but there is less volcanism. Here, there is volcanism. So there are different kinds of boundaries. In some places you find volcanism, in some places we don't. In most of the places we find earthquakes. So it's a very huge last topic, we'll have with proper diagrams and all. So just understand that all this is actually happening in the Ring of Fire region. And why Ring of Fire? It is actually the plate boundaries. Alright. And different kind of features will be there. For example, all the Mariana Trench, all the Philippine Trench, everything is actually happening on the border of the boundaries also.